Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, buckle up because we are in for a 3-ingredient card making session. Now, I do love doing these videos because you do have to kind of pick carefully the ingredients that you use. And today, I don't know why, but these ones are fire. Now, this is a new-ish company to me, a new company to me anyway, Arden Creative Studio, and I have got their 6x8 paper pad. This is the Page Starter Collection. Now, as I said, these are new to me. I believe they're from the UK. I just picked this up because I saw it. I don't know much about the company at all, but I think I'm going to try some more of their bits and pieces. I did order some laser cuts as well, which are beautiful, absolutely beautiful quality. And of course, I love the laser cuts versus the die cuts. This page starter here is actually going to be pretty much the base of every one of our cards. This just breaks the backgrounds. And I don't know why. This is beautiful. I love the colors, and they have lots of different coordinating pieces like enamel dots and rub-ons and laser cuts and paper pads and, all the things. So, really excited to give this company a bit of a go. Next up, I'm going to choose the 49 and Market Botanical Buzz. These are the laser cuts. Now, 49 and Market laser cuts are well worth it in my opinion. First of all, this is the back cover with all those tags. I love that 49 and Market do this. Then the actual laser cuts, there are so many. There are 4 pages. Now these are 12 inches tall, so there are a good amount of images, and you can see they are jam-packed. So this is 2 of them, and then there are 2 of these ones which are more like foliage, flowers, all the individual flowers on stems and stalks. These are dainty and delicate and beautiful. Absolutely perfect for today. As I said, there are just so many, and although I'm going to make a gazillion cards and tags today for you, there was still so much left over. I can't even begin. So this is a great 3-ingredient challenge if you just want endless inspiration. Now, for the last ingredient, I'm going to use the 49 and Market Botanical Buzz rub-ons. Now, I absolutely love the rub-ons from 49 and Market. They're great quality. I've had great success with them. They rub on easily. They don't come off easily once they're on, though. I will say that. But you can shift them around. Like before you actually push them down to adhere them, then you can move them around. They're not super sticky, so that once you put it down, you're stuck. You can move it around, pop it in place, and then once it is on, it is on. Now there are lots and lots of little bits and pieces here. I'm not going to actually use these much today, honestly. But as for all of the images, we are going to go for gold. These 2 obviously match because they're both the 49 Market Botanical Buzz, but the Arden Creative Studio, as you're about to see, actually matches beautifully with this. So let's get started. Now, this 6x8 paper pad is going to work out pretty well. This gives me a lot of space to play with. I'm going to get at least 2 backgrounds for the cards. The cards that I make are generally the 4¼ by 5½ inch cards. Here's the cool thing. The pattern that's on the back is also going to create a beautiful border. And this is something I look in when I'm trying to find paper pads, specifically for these challenges, is that there are some more solid backgrounds. Because it is great to have these beautiful decorative pieces, even like this here, the page starter, but actually having those beautiful, bold, more darker, solid backgrounds create the perfect matting layer. So that's what I'm looking for today. Now, mostly, I'll just say that I'm cutting these down to be 3¾ by 5 inches, and then I cut the matting layer to be a 4 by 5¼ So that's going to leave me a nice little border. In general, I'll be popping these down on some white cards, and I just go through and do this process to several of the pieces. Now, at this point, I don't even know how many cards. This is just me getting a start off. And honestly, it doesn't even matter how you cut these. I was sort of I was trying to think about which parts I wanted to include or whether there were bits I didn't want to cut off, and that's why I'm doing so many little cuts to sort of inch my way there. But actually, honestly, no matter what you get here, it's pretty workable. So this one here, although it's a little bit sad, you do get a couple of pieces of each, so that does help out. This one, again, is going to be used for the matting layer. So it's the same color that matches, it all coordinates with the colors that they've used for the other side, and then half of these pieces that I have trimmed off are going to be usable as well. So don't throw them away, pop them aside, and we're going to use those later on as well, obviously. Now, again, you might think we're going straight through the center here, and of course you could use some circular die cuts and do some die cutting and layering, all those good things. I absolutely thought about that, and then you could use like the 4 corners and pop those on a card in themselves. Lots of good options, but again, I'm sticking with a somewhat recipe. I use that word lightly, but like a bit of a formula here because I want to make a good amount of cards. And so I'm just cutting all of these bases and all of these matting layers to get ready to go. Now, don't look at the back for too long because sometimes when you look at the back, you think, but just keep going. It's going to be okay. And also, I'm not going to lie, it definitely crossed my mind while I was doing this. I was like, maybe I give myself permission to buy a second one of these because I'm loving this paper pad. Kind of more than I thought I would when I was looking at it in the pictures online, to be honest. Really love it. Great design, great well thought out paper pad. Now, I just wanted to quickly mention something. I'm going to whip through some of these. I am going to do some tags as well. That's always an option. I'm just going to do these 3 to show you. But I just wanted to mention the difference between die cuts and laser cuts. Now, often companies will have accompanying die cuts that you can buy, as part of their collections. In general, I have found, and this is just my personal opinion, that die cuts have the white borders around them and white edges, whereas the laser cuts, and I have noticed that 49er Market are particularly awesome at it, and also the Arden Creative Studio. Their laser cuts there are no white borders, nothing white around the edges. It is just pure element, and that is just a personal preference. It's just a personal thing, and that's my preference. So that's why I like them, and that's why I choose them. And also, they pop out cleanly from their backgrounds, like it's not a struggle. And I'm not ripping any of those delicate, beautiful things. You'll see that there's actually a lot of delicate little stems and things, and I don't rip any of them. So I appreciate that I'm not having to fight to get them out. They just pop out really nicely, as they should. Then it can be hard to sort of start. And so I didn't have a plan for any of these. Nothing of this is pre-planned. That's very normal for me. And so I'm just putting down some of the rub-ons. I have cut off some of the other elements. I'm just putting down some rub-ons, and sometimes it just helps me start. That is also partly what the page starter collection, that's also what I wanted that to do. And that has helped me absolutely tremendously. You'll see how it just builds background, and actually when I don't have a plan, I just kind of start to build background, and that's what I'm doing here, just adding in some of the sort of textured pieces, the background pieces. There's some text and there's some honeycomb, there's some colors, there's some splotches, just little bits and pieces. Just add backgrounds until you feel like you come up with an idea or you spot something. And I'm going to show you that there is a giant, beautiful, like brick or stone arch in these laser cuts, and I kind of couldn't figure how to pop that on my whole card, or I didn't want it. It's maybe 5 by 5 or so inches, like it's quite big, which would be beautiful on like a square card, but that just wasn't what I was doing. So let's repurpose it and use it in other ways. This one here, I'm just going with some foliage and then I've got that beautiful big rub-on in the background, so not too much more needed here. And then some foliage background, and then also some focal points as some flowers and things. And then these gorgeous little bows, which are all throughout the laser cuts as well. I'm going to add some of those on. You could add some twine around here. That would also look stunning. And then I'm going to take this and add it onto one of those matting layers. Now, the matting layers really do make a difference in my opinion. So this one here, we need to put it onto a card base, and then you'll really see that matting layer kind of pop. I love that. Now, for the minute, I'm going to not put sentiments on these. I'll show you towards the end what I do, but just for me, I'm in the creative phase. I'm really trying to stick to these 3 ingredients and make this really achievable and something that you can not play along with at home, because it's obviously not done at that speed, but absolutely recreate, especially if you have these elements or something similar. Now, I will just say, I was overwhelmed with ideas. I had endless ideas here, and so I just needed to just create. And so you can see I get several pieces out at once. I've got other ideas, but that's okay. This one was actually like a little flower pot or a flower garden bed. I've cut off the flower part and then I cut the flower bed in half because I just want something to ground my images, which in this case is going to be those gorgeous little jars. I want some foliage coming out of the background of the jars. Just really simple, beautiful elements. I love this collection. Popping some things up on a little bit of foam tape if you want to. I'm using the 1mm foam tape, which is just, it just gives it a touch of dimension. Just, not too much, but just a little hint of a little bit of dimension. And then again, popping this down onto a card base. This is so simple. So that's one that I had already put the rub on in the background, added a couple of elements, and we are good to go. Right, next up, this beautiful teal color. As I said, sometimes it's just best not to look at the back for too long. And I'm going to pop this one down. And then again, this is one of the scraps that I cut off earlier from when I was trimming things, bits and pieces down. Don't throw these away because these can be great for grounding. You could do 1,000,001 scrap techniques with these pieces because of course they all come from the same paper pad. So you are able to, they mix and match really, really well. You could do an entire brick background with one of these. I have videos on how to do that on my channel, and then put a focal point in the center. Lots of really fun options that you can do with the scraps left over, but for me, I'm mainly going to be using them as some grounding options today. And then as I mentioned in that floral, the one that's sort of more foliage and florals, there are lots of individual flower heads and little daisies and flowers and ones that aren't attached to a stem. And so I quite often add those down the bottom of the image as well. There are some stunning little cute as pie bumblebees, I would say. And rather than sort of honeybees, absolutely gorgeous. This one I'm going to use, there's a really, really long fence, like picket fence, wooden fence in there. I just cut a little bit of it off to use with some flowers growing up behind it and a beautiful watering can. And again, adding some of those floral individual elements down the bottom, just for something else too. So these come together so quickly. Honestly, I think this was one of my longest just one of those sessions where the ideas just kept flowing. I had more and more and more ideas. And eventually, you have to stop somewhere. This video was, I don't know, maybe 3 hours of editing. And then, of course, it took a long time to, let alone film, and then edit, and then voiceovers, and uploading, and links, and all the things. So I love doing these videos, but they are very long. So I appreciate you being here and watching them, and you can let me know if these sorts of 3 ingredients or 2 ingredient videos are what you love watching, what ingredients you would like to see me work with, or a specific set that you have your eye on but just want some more ideas. You never know, that might make its way into my videos. So I also, if you really love my style of card making, which in general is making the most of what we've got, craft supplies and art supplies can be expensive, and so we just want to use what we've got and make the most of it when you do purchase something. So that's what I focus on. I also have a website, natashafootecreative.com, and over there I run card making classes. I did an entire series last year called the A to Z of the alphabet in card making. So there are 26 individual videos which are all exclusive to my website. They are not on YouTube at all. And then I also have a whole new series this year, which I have started as well. And there are, I don't even know how many videos now. I am just loving this process of being able to have more videos and more creative play over there on my website. So you can go over and join there. There are also free printable downloads. I have free printable sentiment sheets. I have lots of stuff over there if you would just like to grab those for free. I have cut and goes, which are literally download, print out, cut out the elements, which are all super simple and designed to be hand cut. And then you can pop them on your cards and good to go. And there's coordinating videos that go along with them to show you all the ideas as well. So head on over to natashafootecreative.com and I would love to see you over there as well. Okay, now every now and then another ingredient does sneak its way in. This is the Tranquil Teal. I just sometimes feel that this needed a matting layer. And in failing a matting layer, I'm using some ink. Now, using my finger to smudge these was just a really easy, quick option. Obviously, you can use a foam blender or something as well, but this extra little bit of ink around the outside, I think, really makes a difference. It definitely frames it up nicely. And then here is that gorgeous arch, which, yes, I did cut it, but I swear I used all the pieces into several different cards and tags. So actually, that's just fine. That's absolutely fine. This one here, I'm putting together 3 of the tags. Now, I made all these tags myself. I just cut off one corner, then take that corner, flip it over so it's the reverse, and hold it into the other corner and then snip it off. And that way, each corner is identical and I have my tag looking nice and even, because otherwise I would definitely not get it even. And then I just use a hole punch to pop a little punch up the top. And then that's our tags, good to go. You may even have some dies that cut out your tags for you, which is going to create beautiful tags, I'm sure, as well. And then nothing like a DIY option though. This time I decided to get out the makeup sponge, and I still felt like I was getting this ink everywhere. I'm not going to lie, it ended up everywhere, but that's probably because it was already on my fingers at this point, but that's okay. So you could use something like this to go around, but honestly, smudging it with my finger around the outside worked pretty well. Anyhow, adding in some ink, and then back to more cards. I have so many ideas. These are gorgeous rub-on elements. I am trying to get, you have to cut them. I prefer to cut them apart. I never want to risk damaging other rub-ons in the pack, if they accidentally do stick somewhere. So I always cut out my elements. And then sometimes, depending on what I'm left with, I just cut most of the elements apart. And then I can store them in a much smaller bag than they come in with some of the packaging, just so I know what the collection is. And then it just makes for easier storage. And of course, by the time you've cut lots of pieces apart, there's often, funny corners and things in the packaging which catch. So cutting them apart a little bit more makes it really easy for a couple of good ways there. And again, just popping different elements together. These work so well. This panel here is slightly smaller, I believe, because I feel like I've got a bigger frame around the outside of my card. And then I decided to do a couple in a different style rather than just sort of like, decorating the elements and then popping them onto the plain one. So I'm going to do a different sort of style here, but even these pinks work really, really well. As I said, I just kept cutting down card bases, card fronts. These ones I have cut a 4 by 5 1/4 rectangle, and then I cut it diagonally. You could have this coming from the top corner, you could have it coming from the bottom corner, you could turn your card to be a landscape version rather than portrait. I'm going to do 2 in just the same angle here, which is nice and easy for me. Of course, I can just turn it around. And then I realized that actually I had done one of these on a card front instead of a card base, but that's okay. We can figure that problem out later. Here's a couple of focal points. I'm putting some foam tape. This is the 2mm foam tape. Then I'm going to take a little bit of gold thread just to go around the outside of these to add in just extra little elements. Again, you could use thread. You could use some twine. You could use a little bit of thin ribbon, would look stunning. You could use some raffia. You could use so many different things here. And then I just need to add in some focal elements. Again, just a little different layout, but super easy, quick and fun to put together. These floral images here are very well thought out, and actually sometimes, you'll find 4 or 6 or 10 or whatever, amount that is really good, and then there's always sort of half a dozen or the same amount that you're like, yeah, that's, it's facing the wrong direction, or it's, not the right way or something. But actually, these are all really well balanced images. So well thought out. I appreciate it. Again, I've got a little cluster of flowers and then a gorgeous bow in the front. You could tie a real bow if you want as well, but in the laser cuts there were lots and lots of, there were bows in there. So that was super handy. There's one to the left. I'm going to do the same thing pretty much again, deciding whether I want that pink, that heavier pink watercolor up to the top right or the bottom left. And also if you could use like a matting layer. I've already got the foam tape on behind it, but you could have had a matting layer as well. To me, this sits nicely with the watercolor pink down to the bottom left. It looked a little heavy onto the top right side. So I put the gold thread around and then pop this down in the center. And then again, really, really easy to pop together a little arrangement, whether it be a single piece or a couple of pieces that you can put together. This works well. Now, as I mentioned, sentiments earlier on, I have been mindful to leave a space for sentiments, but just didn't want to put them on as I was going here. Now, I'm happy to go through and I have some like Katie Sue Designs banners. I could put those on. I have some Gina K Designs banners, all pre-printed, all that can go on all of these beautifully. So I know that they're going to match, but I did want to show you a few stamped out just in case, you know, that's what you wanted to do as well. Of course, this does add another element, but I'm sure if you are card making that you probably have a little sentiment stamp set somewhere. This super cute little stamp set, You from Simon Says Stamp, it actually, I'm stamping different pieces of it. So just doing some partial stamping there. I just ink up part of the stamp. This says, You are a stellar human, and then part of that original You stamp had a little heart on it as well, except for I just didn't ink it up. But actually, I quite like it to go at the end here. So I'm going to add this in as well. And I've got a little strip of white cardstock. Now, this did dictate the size. This was just how this came. So that's what I fit the letters wording onto. And then I'm popping it onto one of those spare scraps that I had cut off earlier. And then here is what I've got for the matting layer. So it matches the matting layer behind. This one is a piece of plain white cardstock. This is actually, I think, 3.5 by 5 inches. I want to say it's one step smaller as well. And then it's got the larger matting layer. And then I'm just going to put a couple of different foliage behind it. You could pop the watering can on there. You could pop some of the bees flying around. You could add in some of your own butterflies. All of these you could add on your own enamel dots and drops and some little gems. You could add on some glossy accents to like the watering can. That would look stunning. Lots of different options to make this your own. This is just, I don't even know how many cards and tags we've made today, but hopefully this gives you lots of ideas. Two of my most well-loved stamp sets from Gina K are these mini ones. Now, mini I love because I find they are just such a lower price point than buying a large stamp set. Gina has beautiful products, but the minis are absolutely darling. I love the elegant thoughts and the fancy phrases. This is what I was picturing that would go and be the sentiments here. So when I've left a sentiment space, I know that I can fit those. So the bottom right-hand corner, that's where the little sentiment will go there. You could, as I said, stamp it and put it on a little banner, or you could just stamp it directly onto the project because lots of these don't have any foam tape and are completely one layer. But look at all these beautiful projects that we have made today. I hope you enjoy these kind of videos. As I said, they take a lot of work and a lot of effort. If you are interested in any of the products, then there will always be links down below. There's always links to my website. You can pop over and see me at natashafootecreative.com for exclusive website-only videos that will only ever be there. And then I also have a snail mail address. If you'd like to send me a card, I'd love to receive it. That's the highlight of my week, checking my P.O Box. So there's an address there, and then all the other details, all the other socials and things. But nonetheless, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one.